The sky above Seoul turned red at 600 hours, not the gentle red of sunrise, but the angry crimson of burning atmosphere as massive shapes tore through the clouds. Captain watched from the bridge of his frigate, indomitable as sensors screamed warnings. 12 enormous vessels, each 5 kilometers long, hung in orbit like predators circling wounded prey. Unknown ships, this is Earth Defense Force. Identify yourself. The communications officer's voice was steady, but her hands shook. No response came. Instead, beams of violet light lanced down from the alien vessels. The first strike hit Tokyo. The second obliterated Mumbai. The third vaporized half of New York. Within minutes, 17 cities were gone, simply erased from existence as if they had never been. Gripped his command chair. All weapons fire at will. Get those bastards away from my planet. The Indomitable was one of humanity's ships, barely 3 months old. Earth had only recently mastered faster-than-light travel. They had 3 small colonies among the stars and dreams of peaceful exploration. Those dreams died as plasma rounds bounced harmlessly off alien shields. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral coordinated Earth's desperate defense. Her command center shook as another city died above. Status reports flooded in, each worse than the last. Orbital stations destroyed. Defense satellites offline. 70% of Earth's space fleet already gone. "Ma'am, we're being slaughtered," her tactical officer said. "I can see that, Commander. Keep fighting." On the moon, Doctor worked frantically in her research lab, as she had spent years hopping to meet alien life. Not like this. Never like this. Her equipment had intercepted some of the alien communications. The language was harsh, clicking, nothing like human speech, but patterns emerged. Mathematics was universal. She worked for 6 hours straight, building a translation algorithm. When the first words came through, her blood turned cold. Elimination proceeding as planned. Target species shows expected resistance. Recommend full sterilization protocols. Opened a channel to Admiral. "They're not here to conquer us. They're here to exterminate us." "Why?" asked. "I don't know, but this isn't their first time. I'm seeing references to other operations, other worlds. Admiral, I think they make a habit of this." Above Earth, watched another frigate explode. His ship's shields were failing. Hull breaches on 3 decks, but he had noticed something. Every time human weapons hit the alien shields, there was a brief flicker in the lower port quadrant. A weakness, maybe, or just wishful thinking from a desperate man. "Helm, plot a collision course with that carrier," ordered. "Everyone else, abandon ship. Get to the escape pods." "Sir, you can't." "That's an order, move." His crew hesitated, then obeyed, waited until the last pod launched, then locked the controls. The Indomitable accelerated, all remaining power diverted to engines. The alien carrier ahead didn't even bother to evade. Why would it? Human ships had been dying all day without scratching their hulls. Aimed for the lower port section and whispered a prayer. The impact came at 3,000 meters per second. The Indomitable crumpled like paper, but its momentum drove the wreckage through the flickering shield. Metal tore into the alien hull. Secondary explosions rippled across the carrier's surface. Atmosphere vented into space. The massive ship listed, its weapons going dark. Then it began to break apart. "Did you see that?" shouted in her bunker. "All ships, concentrate fire on the lower port quadrants of enemy shields. That's their weak point." Earth's remaining vessels pressed the attack with renewed fury. More alien ships flickered and died, but the cost was terrible. For every enemy vessel destroyed, humanity lost 10 ships. The math was brutal and simple. Earth was still losing. Continued decoding transmissions. What she found made her physically ill. The aliens called themselves the Empire. For over a century, they had hunted emerging civilizations. Their philosophy was simple. Any species capable of reaching the stars was a potential threat. Better to eliminate them early while they were still weak. Humanity was just the latest name on a long list. 17 other species had already been erased from existence. The battle raged for 14 hours. Cities burned. Billions died. The oceans boiled where enemy weapons struck. But humanity fought with a desperation they had never encountered before. Every species they had attacked previously had surrendered within hours, begging for mercy that never came. Humans didn't beg. They bled, they died, but they didn't stop fighting. When the commander saw his fleet reduced to half strength, he made a decision. This wasn't worth the cost. The humans would die eventually anyway. Better to return with overwhelming force and finish them properly. The alien ships began to retreat, jumping to faster-than-light speed and vanishing into the black. They left behind a burning world and 3 billion dead. Admiral emerged from her bunker into a changed world. The sky was dark with ash. Half of Earth's major cities were gone. The survivors wandered in shock, searching for loved ones who would never be found. She stood among the ruins and made a promise to the dead. "They'll come back," her aide said quietly. "Our intelligence suggests they'll return in 6 months with 10 times as many ships." "I know," said, "which means we have 6 months to prepare." The United Earth Council convened in an emergency session. Representatives from every surviving nation gathered. The debate was short. Some argued for building better defenses, hiding, hoping the aliens would forget about them. But intelligence reports settled the matter. "The don't forget," she told the council. "They don't forgive. They don't negotiate. They have exterminated 17 civilizations. They will return and finish what they started. We have 2 choices, wait here to die or take the fight to them." "We barely have any ships left," someone protested. "Then we build more," said Standing. "We turn every factory on this planet into a shipyard. We convert civilian vessels into warships. We train every person who can hold a weapon. And when we're ready, we don't wait for them to come back. We go to them. We find their worlds. And we make them regret they ever heard the name Earth." The vote was unanimous. Across the planet, humanity began to mobilize. Mining ships were stripped and retrofitted with weapons. Pleasure cruise vessels became troop transports. Scientists who had studied peaceful stars now calculated firing solutions. Children learned to fight instead of playing games. In the lunar lab, studied the captured technology and transmissions. She had intercepted coordinates, fleet movements, supply routes. She knew where the Empire was. Captain woke in a hospital bed, his body broken but alive. His crew had pulled him from the Indomitable's wreckage. They told him he was a hero. He didn't feel like one. He felt like a man who had watched his world burn. "Captain," a messenger said, entering his room, "Admiral requests your presence. They're assembling a fleet. A real fleet, not just for defense. They want you to be part of it." Looked out the window at the ash-darkened sky. Somewhere out there, they were preparing to return and finish their genocide. But they had made a mistake. They had attacked Earth first, expecting humanity to break. Instead, they had awakened something ancient and terrible, something that had driven humans to survive ice ages and plagues and wars. They had awakened humanity's fury. "Tell the Admiral I'll be there," said, "and tell her I have a score to settle." 6 months passed like a fever dream. The world remembered was gone, replaced by something harder and more desperate. Every city that survived the attack had transformed into a war machine. Factory workers who once built cars now assembled missile systems. Teachers trained children to use weapons. The elderly volunteered for dangerous spacecraft construction in orbital shipyards that ran 24 hours a day. Fleet Commander Minu stood in the largest shipyard above Earth, watching the fleet take shape. He was 40 years old, a career Navy officer who had expected to spend his life on peaceful exploration missions. Instead, he commanded humanity's revenge. 200 ships, engineering chief said beside him. She was young, barely 30, but brilliant. Converted civilian vessels mostly. Not proper warships, but they'll fly and they'll fight. Will they be enough? Minyu asked. Against the entire empire, no, but against the fleet coming to finish us, maybe, if we're very lucky and very smart. Had worked miracles in 6 months. She had taken luxury cruise ships and fitted them with weapons. Mining vessels became carriers for her new hunter-killer drones, small unmanned craft designed to exploit the shield weakness that had discovered. Every ship in the fleet carried some piece of her genius. Lieutenant was 26 and should have been finishing his doctorate in military history. Instead, he sat in tactical planning sessions with admirals 3 times his age. His youth didn't matter. His mind worked like a quantum computer, seeing patterns in enemy movements that others missed. Commander Minyu said, spreading holographic maps across the war room table. I've analyzed every second of the battle 6 months ago. The fight in strict formations. They never deviate. It's like they follow a manual that hasn't been updated in centuries. That's useful, Minyu said. It's more than useful, sir. It means they're predictable, arrogant. They've won so many times against species weaker than them that they've forgotten how to adapt. Doctor entered the room carrying data tablets. She looked exhausted. For 6 months, she had barely slept, working to decode every scrap of intelligence. I have good news and bad news, she said. Good news. I've mapped the location of 40 systems. I know where their supply routes are, where their military bases are, and where their capital world is. And the bad news? Minyu asked. The empire is vast, hundreds of conquered species, thousands of ships. Even if we win here, they can replace their losses. We can't. Every ship we lose is irreplaceable. Minyu studied the maps. The capital, Prime, sat deep in enemy territory. Between Earth and that world lay dozens of enemy star systems, fleets, and defenses. We're not staying to defend Earth, he said quietly. Everyone stared at him. Sir said, think about it, if we stay and fight when they return, even if we win, we'll be crippled. They'll just send another fleet, and another, until we're gone. Minyu pointed at the map. But if we take the fight to them, if we attack their territory, disrupt their supply lines, destroy their bases, we might buy Earth enough time to truly fortify itself. You're talking about an invasion, said. 50,000 people against an entire empire. I'm talking about survival. We can't win by defending. We have to attack. Admiral approved the plan, though it tore at her to send Earth's remaining forces away. But Minyu was right. Defense would only delay the inevitable. The fleet departed on a cold morning, 200 ships carrying humanity's hope and rage. The first engagement came 3 weeks later, at the outer colonies. They had established a supply depot in a system they had conquered 5 years ago. Minyu's fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the system's edge. All ships follow Lieutenant's attack pattern, Minyu ordered. Release the hunter-killers. They expected humans to charge straight at them, like prey animals panicking. Instead, the fleet split into 3 groups, each moving in seemingly random directions. The hunter-killer drones launched by the thousands, small and fast and deadly. Watched the battle unfold like a chess match. Formation Alpha 7, he muttered, just like the manual. They're moving to encircle our main group. Commander, execute feint pattern 3. The main group suddenly broke apart. The ships, committed to their encirclement, found themselves out of position. Drones swarmed in, exploiting shield weak points. Alien ships died in brilliant explosions. The supply depot's defenders surrendered within 2 hours. Humanity's first victory. But more importantly, they captured officers, interrogated them personally. The aliens were tall, roughly humanoid but with gray skin and too many joints in their limbs. They sneered at her until she showed them footage of their destroyed ships. Your empire murdered billions of my people, said. You will tell me everything I want to know, or you will die here forgotten. They talked. They had conquered 40 star systems. Dozens of species served them as slaves. Their empire had stood for 400 years, built on the ashes of races that had dared to reach for the stars. "Why do you do this?" asked. "Because we can," the officer said. "Because we are superior. Because we learned long ago that mercy is weakness. Better to kill a potential rival while they are still in their cradle." Left the interrogation sick to her stomach, but she had learned what she needed. The empire was vast, but it was also stretched thin. Most of their conquered species hated them. Some might be willing to fight if someone gave them hope. The fleet pressed deeper into territory. They hit supply convoys, destroyed communication relays, and captured fuel depots. Tactics worked brilliantly. They kept expecting humans to fight by their rules, and humans kept refusing. After the fifth successful raid, Minyu gathered his commanders. "We've bloodied their nose, but we need to make a statement. Something that shows the entire empire that humanity will not be easily killed." The communications relay at System J449 suggested. "It's a major hub. If we capture it, we can access their entire network, learn everything." The attack on J449 was the bloodiest yet. They had reinforced it after losing previous bases. 30 human ships died taking it, but they won. And when accessed the relay's data, she found treasure. Complete maps of the empire, fleet positions, supply schedules, and most importantly, the location of Prime, the capital world where the Empress ruled. "It's defended by over 300 ships," reported. "Getting there would require fighting through multiple defensive lines." Minyu studied the data for hours. Then he made his decision. "We're going for the capital." "Sir, that's suicide," one of his commanders protested. "Maybe, but think about it. Every empire in history, when you cut off the head, the body dies. If we can threaten Prime itself, we force them to pull ships back from other areas. We create chaos, and chaos is the only advantage we have." The fleet moved deeper into enemy space. They fought 3 major battles in as many weeks, casualties mounted. They lost 40 ships, 4,000 humans dead, but they kept advancing. Then came the message from Earth. The Revenge fleet had launched. 600 warships heading for humanities. They would arrive in 3 months. Minyu looked at his battered fleet. He had maybe 160 ships left. Not enough to fight 600. Not enough to save Earth by returning. "We keep going," he told his commanders. "We hit Prime. We make them hurt so badly they have to recall that fleet." "And if they don't recall it?" someone asked. Minyu didn't answer, because he knew the truth. If they failed, Earth would die. Every human being who had survived the first attack would perish in the second. The entire species would be erased from existence, just another name on this list of exterminated civilizations. "Then we make sure they remember us," said quietly from across the room. "We make sure that when they tell stories in the future, they speak of the species that fought back, the species that didn't go quietly into the dark." The fleet stood at the edge of core territory. Ahead lay the capital and the final battle. Behind them, Earth counted down its last days. Minyu gave the order. "All ships prepare for faster-than-light jump. We're going to Prime. We're going to show this empire what happens when you attack Earth first." The planet appeared on their sensors like a wound in space. Prime, third world of the Empire's slave systems. Commander had been watching it for 3 days from her stealth scout ship, gathering intelligence while the main fleet prepared for the push toward Prime. "There are 17 labor camps on the surface," reported to Minyu via encrypted transmission. "Population roughly 4 billion. They were conquered 3 generations ago. They use them to mine rare minerals." "Military presence?" Minyu asked. "Light, maybe 20 garrison ships in orbit. They don't expect trouble from slaves who've been broken for 70 years. Minyu studied the data. His fleet was battered from weeks of fighting. They had lost 60 ships since leaving Earth. Every day brought them closer to Prime, but also closer to destruction. They needed allies. They needed help. But could they trust another species? Could they afford to divert forces for a liberation when Earth itself faced extinction? Doctor had been listening to the conversation. "Commander, I need to go down there. I need to talk to them." "Too dangerous," Minyu said. "Everything we're doing is dangerous. But if we can turn the slaves against them, we multiply our forces. We create chaos across their entire empire. It's worth the risk." Minyu approved the mission reluctantly. Stealth ship descended through Prime's atmosphere, landing in a remote mining region. Stepped onto alien soil for the first time, wearing basic environment gear and carrying only a translator device. They were reptilian, roughly humanoid but covered in scales that changed color with their emotions. The miners who found in the tunnels recoiled in fear. They had learned to fear anything new, anything different. "I'm not," said quickly, her translator converting the words to clicks and hisses. "I'm human, from a world called Earth. They attacked us 6 months ago. They killed 3 billion of my people." One of the, older than the others with scars across his scales, stepped forward. "Then you are dead. The do not leave survivors." "We survived, and we fought back. We're here now in their territory, burning their bases and destroying their fleets." They stared at her. The concept seemed impossible to them. No one fought no one won. "I am the said, I speak for this camp. Why are you here?" "To offer you freedom, and to ask for your help." They talked for hours, explained that they had been a proud species once, with art and culture and dreams of the stars. Then they came. Within a year, their military was destroyed. Within 5 years, their government had collapsed. Within a generation, their children were born into slavery and knew nothing else. "We tried to resist," said bitterly. "We tried rebellion 3 times. Each time they killed millions of us in response. Now we survive. That is all we do." "What if you could do more than survive?" asked. "What if I told you there are ships in orbit right now, human ships, ready to destroy the garrison? What if I told you that across the galaxy, the Empire is burning? What if I gave you a chance to be free again?" Scales rippled through colors translator couldn't interpret. Fear, hope, disbelief, rage, all mixed together. "You would free us, why?" "Because the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and because no species should live as slaves." "Mean you didn't like the plan? We can't afford to lose ships here. Every vessel we have is needed for Prime. And every ally we gain makes victory more possible," argued via communication link from the surface. "Commander, they have underground resistance cells on 3 different worlds. If we free just this one planet, it will inspire uprisings across multiple systems. They will have to divert forces to contain them, forces that won't be defending their capital." Lieutenant agreed with, "It's sound strategy, sir. We trade 40 ships here for the possibility of tying down hundreds of vessels elsewhere." Minyu made the call he knew might doom them all. "Split the fleet. 80 ships continue to Prime. 80 ships stay here and liberate Prime." The battle for Prime lasted 6 hours. The garrison was unprepared for human tactics. Hunter-killer drones swarmed the orbital defenses, coordinated strike teams with surgical precision. The garrison ships died quickly. But they had one final order programmed into their systems. If they lost control of a slave world, they would sterilize it from orbit rather than let the slaves go free. Automated weapons platforms began charging up, ready to rain fire on the planet below. Minyu called across the command channel. "Those platforms have to be destroyed before they fire." "On it," responded. His ship, a converted mining vessel he had named Indomitable II in honor of his first command, accelerated toward the nearest platform. "All ships form up on me. We go in hard and fast." They lost 12 ships destroying the platforms. 12 ships and 400 humans who died so that billions of could live. This vessel survived barely, with hull breaches and failing life support. On the surface, watched the human ships burn in orbit and wept. His people had not seen anyone sacrifice themselves for freedom in 70 years. Many thought they weren't worth saving anymore. "Tell your commander," said Tu, "that they are free, and we will fight, not just here but everywhere. Every in the Empire will rise up. We will tear down everything they built on our backs." The uprising spread faster than anyone expected. Within days, resistance cells on 3 other worlds attacked their overseers. Weapons depots exploded. Garrison troops were ambushed. Ships went missing. But not every conquered species joined them. A species enslaved for 200 years viewed the humans with suspicion. "You say you come to free us," their representative told via captured communications relay. "But how are you different from they came with promises too once." "We're different because we're asking, not demanding," said. "Help us or don't. But know this, we're going to destroy the Empire whether you join us or not. When we win, we'll remember who stood with us." They chose neutrality. So did 3 other species. But 2 others, sent volunteers. Not many, just a few thousand warriors and a handful of ships. But it was enough to show that the Empire's grip was weakening. Then they revealed their response. New ships emerged from their core worlds, vessels that looked grown rather than built. Organic technology, pulsing with strange energy. These ships didn't use normal shields. Drones couldn't exploit weaknesses that didn't exist. The first encounter with the bioships cost humanity 15 vessels. Minyu watched good people die and knew they had underestimated the Empire's resources. "We're still losing too many ships," said in the engineering bay, surrounded by wreckage from the latest battle. "At this rate, we won't have enough left to threaten Prime." "Then we adapt," Minyu said. "That's what we do. They are rigid, predictable, we're not. Find me a weakness in those bioships." Worked for 72 hours straight. She discovered that the organic ships had to rest periodically, dropping to minimal power while their biological components regenerated. It wasn't much of a weakness, but it was something. Planned ambushes around that weakness. Wait for the bioships to enter their rest cycle, then strike with everything available. It worked, but barely. The cost was still terrible. In his quarters, Minyu received word from Earth. The Revenge fleet was 2 months away. His was preparing for the end. Children were being moved to deep bunkers. Weapons were being distributed to civilians. Everyone knew it was pointless, but humans had never been good at accepting the inevitable. "We're running out of time," he said to his assembled commanders. "The fleet heading for Earth won't turn back unless we force the Empire to recall them. That means we have to threaten something they value more than revenge." Prime said. "Prime," Minyu agreed. "We gather everything we have left. Every human ship, every volunteer, every freed slave who wants to fight. We throw it all at the Empire's heart. We make them bleed so badly they have no choice but to pull back." "And if they don't pull back?" someone asked. "Then Earth dies, but the Empire dies with it, because we won't stop. We'll burn every world we can reach before they kill us all." The combined fleet assembled at the edge of core territory. 140 human ships, 30 warships, and a dozen vessels from the end. Against them, intelligence suggested 800 defenders at the capital. The odds were impossible, everyone knew it, but no one suggested retreat. "You attacked Earth first," Minyu broadcast to his fleet. "You taught us that the galaxy is not a safe place. You taught us that mercy is a luxury we can't afford. Now we're going to teach you something. We're going to teach you that humanity doesn't forgive. And we never forget. All ships jump to Prime. Let's end this war." Prime hung in space like a jewel, beautiful and terrible. The planet was ancient, its cities sprawling across 3 continents. 400 years of empire had made it rich beyond measure, built on the stolen wealth of conquered worlds. Orbital fortresses ringed it like a crown of thorns, each one capable of destroying an entire fleet. Admiral Minyu stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the enemy forces gather. 800 warships arranged in perfect formation. They had known humanity was coming. They had prepared. Final count, Minyu asked. 182 ships total, Lieutenant reported. 140 human, 12 from our other allies, against 800 defenders. The mathematics of destruction, 4-to-1 odds, worse than impossible. A transmission came through, broadcast across all frequencies. The image that appeared was of unlike any they had seen before. She was ancient, her gray skin marked with patterns of authority, her eyes cold as vacuum. Empress, ruler of the empire for over a century. Humans, she said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. You have fought well, better than any species we have encountered. You have destroyed our bases, freed our slaves, and brought war to our very doorstep. For this, I salute you, but your journey ends here. Gestured, and the camera pulled back to show the massive throne room behind her. Thousands of warriors lined the walls. Surrender now, accept servitude. Your species will survive as servants of the empire. Your children will learn to serve properly. In a few generations, you will forget you were ever free. This is mercy. This is more than we have offered any other species. Minyu thought about Earth, about burning cities and billions of dead, about children who would never grow up, dreams that would never be fulfilled, futures that had been stolen in violet fire. Doctor, he said quietly, open a channel, let me respond. Worked her console. Every ship in the system and human alike would hear what came next. Empress, Minyu said, his voice steady. You attacked Earth first. You came to our world without warning, without reason, and you killed 3 billion of my people. You didn't offer terms. You didn't negotiate. You just killed us because you could. He paused, letting the words sink in. Now you offer mercy. Now you offer servitude. No, you taught us that the galaxy doesn't care about mercy. You taught us that the strong survive and the weak die. So here we are. We brought 182 ships. You have 800. The mathematics say we should run, but mathematics doesn't account for one thing. And what is that? Asked, genuinely curious. Rage, pure, focused rage. We don't want to serve you. We don't want to negotiate with you. We want to burn your empire to ash. We want to destroy everything you've built, and we're willing to die to do it. Minyu cut the transmission. He turned to his fleet. All ships, this is it. We're outnumbered 4-to-1. Most of us won't survive the next few hours, but we're not here to survive. We're here to hurt them. We're here to make them regret they ever heard the word human. For Earth. For every person we've lost. Attack. The fleet surged forward. Had spent weeks planning this battle, studying every piece of intelligence they had. The formations were predictable, textbook responses that hadn't changed in centuries. They're forming defensive wall pattern Epsilon, called out. Just like I predicted, all wings execute scatter protocol. The human fleet split into a dozen smaller groups, each moving in seemingly random directions. The wall tried to track them all and ended up tracking none of them effectively. Hunter-killer drones launched by the tens of thousands, small and fast and vicious. The first orbital fortress died 12 minutes into the battle, had led a suicide run straight at it, drawing defensive fire while ships flanked from below. The fortress exploded in a cascade of secondary detonations. But humanity paid in blood. 20 ships gone in the first hour, 30 in the second. The odds were grinding them down, mathematics asserting itself with brutal efficiency. Worked in her engineering bay aboard the flagship, coordinating drone attacks and calculating firing solutions. She had built a weapon, a prototype she had been saving for exactly this moment. A resonance disruptor, designed to shatter the planetary shield protecting Prime. Commander Minyu, she reported, I can break their planetary shield, but the weapon will destroy itself and any ships within 10 kilometers when it activates. How many ships? Minyu asked. To carry enough disruptors to guarantee success. 3. Volunteers only. smiled sadly. "Sir, everyone in this fleet is already a volunteer. We all knew what we signed up for." 3 ships moved into position, vessel among them. They pushed through the defensive lines, taking devastating damage. 1 ship exploded before reaching position. The second made it but lost power at the critical moment. Ship, battered and dying, reached the optimal distance. She activated the resonance disruptor. The weapon functioned perfectly. Waves of energy cascaded across the planetary shield, finding every weakness, every harmonic frequency. The shield held for almost 30 seconds. Then it shattered like glass. Had 3 seconds to realize she had succeeded before her ship exploded, the disruptor's energy tearing it apart from the inside. She died knowing she had done her job. "Shield is down," shouted. "Ground forces, you're clear to land." Led the assault. 50 ships, converted transports carrying human and warriors, dove toward the planet's surface. The defenders tried to intercept them. 15 transports died in the atmosphere, burning like meteors. But 35 made it through. Soldiers poured out onto the streets of the imperial capital, a city that had never known war in 4 centuries. Fighting was brutal, close-quarters combat in narrow streets between ornate buildings. They were shocked. Their capital was supposed to be impregnable. Now aliens fought in their streets, destroying monuments that had stood for centuries. In orbit, the battle raged on. Minu had lost 90 ships. They had lost 300, but they still had 500 left. The mathematics still favored them. Then, working from the flagship, detected something. A massive energy buildup on the planet's surface, centered in the Imperial Palace. "Commander, they're activating something. Power readings are off the scale." "What kind of weapon?" Minu demanded. "Not a weapon, it's a self-destruct. They're going to destroy the entire planet." His voice came through on all channels again. "If the Empire falls, it will not fall to inferiors. I will not see our capital desecrated by animals who barely know how to walk upright. In 10 minutes, this world will be ash. Your soldiers on the surface will die. Your fleet in orbit will be damaged, and the Empire will rebuild on other worlds." "She's insane," said. "She's desperate," Minu corrected. "Can your forces reach the palace?" On the surface was already moving. "We're 3 kilometers away, heavy resistance, but we can try." "You have 9 minutes. His forces fought through defenders with a fury born of desperation. 8 minutes. 7. Buildings burned around them. 6 minutes. They reached the palace steps. 5 minutes. Had trained a dozen engineers before the battle, teaching them everything she knew. One of them, a young woman named Jinnah, ran through the palace corridors following the energy signatures. 4 minutes. She found the chamber. Massive machinery filled it, pulsing with energy. Stood in the center, hands on ancient controls. "You cannot stop this," said calmly. "The mechanism is locked. Only I know the codes." "Then I'll go through you," Jinnah said, raising her weapon. Was faster than she looked. 4 centuries of genetic engineering made warriors formidable. She moved like liquid, disarming Jinnah and throwing her across the room. 3 minutes. But Jinnah wasn't alone. Burst through the doorway, followed by 6 soldiers. They opened fire. Fell, her body torn apart by human weapons. 2 minutes. Jinnah scrambled to the controls. The codes were locked but had taught her well. Every machine had a weakness. Every system had a vulnerability. She found it, a manual override buried in ancient circuits. 1 minute. She pulled the lever, redirecting power, forcing the weapon to shut down. The machinery screamed, fighting her. 30 seconds. The planet shook. Energy backfired through the systems, exploding outward. Jinnah was thrown against the wall, her body broken. 10 seconds. The countdown stopped at 7 seconds. The energy buildup collapsed harmlessly. In orbit, Minu watched the reading stabilize, confirmed it. The weapon is disabled. The planet is safe. But the battle wasn't over. The fleet, seeing their empress dead and their capital invaded, fragmented. Some ships surrendered immediately. Others fought with renewed fanaticism. A few fled, jumping to faster-than-light speed and vanishing. By the time the firing stopped, Minyu had 43 ships left, less than a quarter of what he had started with, but they had only 80 ships remaining, and those were scattered and demoralized. "The Empire has fallen," broadcast across all channels in every language the Empire had used. "Is dead, Prime is free, all conquered species rise up. The chains are broken." Minyu should have felt victorious. Instead, he felt hollow, so many dead, so much destroyed. Then the message came from Earth. The revenge fleet was 3 days away, 600 ships heading for humanities. "We're out of time," Minyu said. "All remaining ships prepare for emergency jump. We're going home." Admiral stood in the command bunker beneath what had once been Seoul. Above her, the sky was filled with ships. Not enough ships, never enough ships. Earth had spent the last months building, preparing, fortifying. But 600 warships were coming, and she had barely 100 vessels to defend with. "Status of the planetary defense grid?" she asked. 70% operational, her tactical officer reported. "We've installed weapons platforms on the Moon, Mars, and 3 asteroid bases. But Admiral, the math doesn't work. We can't win this." "Then we'll make them pay for every meter of space they take," said. "Humanity doesn't surrender, not anymore." The fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 600 ships, the largest force the Empire had ever assembled. Their commander was War Master, a fanatic who had served for 80 years. When news reached him of her death, something had broken inside him. "The humans killed our Empress," he broadcast to his fleet. "They invaded our capital. They destroyed the heart of our empire. For this, they will be erased, not just defeated, erased. When we are done, no trace of humanity will remain, not a building, not a monument, not a grave, nothing." The fleet moved inward, toward Earth. They swept aside the asteroid defenses in the outer system. Mars' base fell after a brief fight. The lunar platforms lasted longer, but eventually they too went silent. Watched her defensive line collapse piece by piece. Every station that fell was 100 more humans dead, 100 more people who would never see tomorrow. "All ships fall back to Earth orbit. This is where we make our stand." The civilians on Earth who couldn't fight huddled in underground shelters. Those who could fight moved to weapons positions. Elderly men and women who had survived the first attack armed themselves, ready to die defending what little remained of their world. Above them, 100 Earth defense ships formed a desperate line. Against 600 vessels, it was meaningless. But they formed up anyway, because the alternative was to simply give up and die. "Here they come," the sensor officer said quietly. The fleet advanced in perfect formation. No tricks, no strategy, just overwhelming force, grinding forward like a wave of destruction. The first human ship died within minutes of contact, then the second, then 5 more. The mathematics of survival became mathematics of how long they could delay the inevitable. Sat on his flagship, watching Earth's pathetic defense crumble. "Prepare for orbital bombardment, target every major city. I want this planet burning." His weapons officer began charging the main cannons. They would need perhaps 10 minutes to fully power up, then Earth would die. 8 minutes until bombardment. Then space tore open. 43 ships emerged from faster-than-light travel, appearing between Earth and the fleet. Battered, damaged, barely holding together, but there. Minyu's fleet had made it home. "All Earth forces, this is Commander Minyu. Sorry we're late. We had to deal with some business at the capital first." Felt hope surge through her for the first time in months. "Minyu, your fleet is mostly dead," Minyu said bluntly. "We lost over 100 ships taking Prime, but we won. The Empire's capital has fallen, their Empress is dead, and we're not alone." Behind his 43 ships, space rippled again. More vessels emerged. Warships, dozens of them. Ships from even a few vessels that had decided neutrality was cowardice. We freed them, Minu broadcast to the entire solar system, human and alike. Every species the Empire enslaved, every race they conquered. We showed them that they could be beaten. And they came. All of them came to help us. 7 minutes until bombardment. Stared at the new arrivals. His perfect numerical advantage was shrinking. He still had superior numbers, but the confidence of inevitable victory wavered. It doesn't matter, he told his crew. They are inferior species led by animals. We have ruled this galaxy for centuries. Press the attack. Doctor was on Minu's flagship. She had been working frantically during the journey from Prime, compiling footage, evidence, transmissions. Now she broadcasted across every channel. Images of surrender before her death, videos of the Imperial Palace burning, recordings of freed slaves celebrating, and most damaging of all, transmissions from officers abandoning their posts, fleeing the capital, declaring the war lost. Broadcast directly to the commander. Your empress is dead, your capital has fallen, your empire is collapsing. Ships across every system are surrendering or fleeing. You're not fighting for an empire anymore. You're fighting for pride. How many more need to die for one man's pride? 6 minutes until bombardment. Some of ships began to slow. Captains questioned orders. Why fight when there was no empire left to serve? Traitors screamed, "Cowards we do not surrender." But the unity of his fleet was fracturing. 3 ships jumped to faster-than-light speed and fled, then 7 more, then 20. 5 minutes until bombardment. Lieutenant was coordinating the defense from Minu's bridge. He saw the fractures in the formation and exploited them ruthlessly. Focus fire on the ships still advancing. Ignore the ones retreating. Make the fanatics pay for their loyalty. The combined Earth and Allied fleet tore into the remaining forces, led the ships in a flanking maneuver that destroyed a carrier. Human hunter-killer drones swarmed through the enemy formation. 4 minutes until bombardment. His flagship was taking damage, hull breaches on multiple decks, but he refused to retreat. His weapons were almost charged. Earth would burn, humanity would die, the Empire would be avenged. 3 minutes until bombardment, his weapons officer reported. Saw what intended. The flagship's main cannons were glowing with energy, aimed directly at Earth. If they fired, entire continents would burn. All ships form up on me, broadcast. We're taking out that flagship. Captain, we'll never break through their defenses in time, someone protested. We don't need to break through, we just need to delay them. Ship, the indomitable II, had survived the battle at Prime. It was held together with hull patches and desperation, but it could still fly. He aimed at its flagship and diverted all power to engines. 2 minutes until bombardment. Saw the human ship accelerating toward him. Destroy it. But ship was already too close. Point defense systems couldn't track fast enough. The indomitable II slammed into his flagship at ramming speed. The impact was catastrophic. Both ships tore apart in a fireball visible from Earth's surface. Had seconds to activate emergency transport, beaming himself and most of his crew to nearby friendly ships before the explosion consumed everything. But he succeeded, died in the explosion, and without him, without his flagship, the attack fell apart completely. All forces, this is Captain of the Defense Fleet, the reptilian commander broadcast. Your war master is dead. Your empire is gone. Surrender now and you will be treated fairly. Continue fighting and you will be destroyed. The remaining ships lowered their weapons. One by one, they signaled surrender. The battle for Earth was over. Emerged from her bunker into daylight for the first time in months. The sky was filled with debris, burning ship fragments falling like shooting stars. But it was also filled with Allied ships, vessels from a dozen species, all gathered to defend a world they had never seen before. Minyu's shuttle landed near the bunker. He stepped out, his uniform torn and stained with blood. He looked 20 years older than when he had left Earth months ago. "It's done," he said the war is over. "How many?" asked quietly. "We left Earth with 200 ships and 50,000 people. I brought back 43 ships and less than 8,000 people." Minyu's voice was hollow. "Is dead. Jinnah is dead. Thousands of others whose names I'll never forget." Put a hand on his shoulder. "But Earth stands. Humanity survives." The costs were calculated over the following weeks. Earth, 3.2 billion dead from the initial attack and the final battle. The fleet, 42,000 dead. The Empire, complete collapse with 17 conquered species freed and billions of lives changed forever. 6 months later, Minyu stood at a memorial service on Earth. 40,000 names were inscribed on a wall of black stone, one for every human who had died in the war. His name was there. So was Jinnah's. So were thousands of others. "They came to our world," Minyu said to the assembled crowd, millions watching across Earth and transmitted to freed worlds across the galaxy. "They came without warning, without mercy, without reason. They killed billions. They expected us to break, to surrender, to beg for our lives." He paused, looking at the memorial wall. "Instead, we fought. We crossed the galaxy. We freed slaves. We toppled an empire. We showed the universe that humanity will never accept extinction quietly. They attacked Earth first. That was their mistake. Because once you threaten humanity's home, we will pursue you to the end of the galaxy and beyond." Doctor had spent the months after the war establishing the Council, a coalition of formerly enslaved species working together to prevent future genocides. 17 races sent representatives, including some who had renounced the Empire's philosophy. "The galaxy is different now," told the Council. "For 400 years the strong preyed on the weak. Emerging civilizations were destroyed before they could defend themselves. That era is over. We stand together now, and we promise each other, never again." Had retired from military service. His body was too broken from the ramming attack, but he taught at the new Naval Academy, training the next generation of defenders. "War is not glorious," he told his students. "War is horror and pain and watching friends die. But sometimes war is necessary. Sometimes monsters come to your door and you have to fight or die. When that day comes, remember what humanity did. Remember that we survived. And remember that we made them pay for every life they took." Earth began to rebuild. Cities rose from ashes. Populations slowly recovered. And across the solar system, new shipyards appeared, building not exploration vessels but warships. Humanity had learned its lesson. They would never be unprepared again. Addressed his people. 3 generations we spent as slaves. We thought freedom was impossible. Then humanity came. They didn't have to free us. They could have ignored our suffering and pursued their own survival. But they fought for us anyway. We owe them a debt we can never repay. Then we will stand with them, the assembly declared. If humanity's enemies come again, they will face not just humans but warriors, and every species that remembers what freedom costs. The Empire's territory was divided among the freed species. Some chose to integrate into the new coalition, renouncing their species' violent past. Others retreated to their, bitter and diminished. Prime became a museum, a monument to the dangers of arrogance and the cost of treating other species as inferior. The imperial palace still stood and burned, kept as a reminder. On its walls, someone had painted words in every language the Empire had tried to erase. "You attacked Earth first. We will never forget, we will never forgive, and we will never let this happen again." 5 years after the war, Minyu stood on a new space station orbiting Earth. Through the viewport, he could see construction crews building the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Not for conquest, Not for revenge, but for protection. Joined him at the viewport. Do you think they'll come back, Maybe, or maybe some other species will try what they tried. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Then we'll be ready. We'll be ready, Minu agreed. Because that's what humanity does. We survive, we adapt, we fight, and we protect those who can't protect themselves. Below them, Earth turned slowly in space, but alive, damaged but rebuilding. A blue jewel in the darkness, home to a species that had looked extinction in the face and refused to blink. They had attacked Earth first. They would never make that mistake again.